thank you everybody for being here. If you're ever interested in presenting at Coffee at Home, please reach out. Probably reach out to Kim. I'll throw that on her, and she can get you scheduled in. And if you ever have an announcement, you can also weave that in. So we're here to help support businesses and connect consumers to business and business to business and interns to business. You like how I got there, Janae? So with that, I'll introduce Janae Hunderman. I'll pass the ball on over to you, and I will let you take it. And looking forward to hearing from you and Nick. Good morning.
Thanks for having us. It's good to see so many familiar faces here and a few new ones. I'm going to multitask and talk while I share my screen and get all set up here for a second. So let's see if I can do that. So you should be looking at my presentation. But if you give me 1 second, I want to see my notes. So I have to find those real quick. Keep it in presentation mode for you guys. I practiced this last night, you guys.
How'd that go for you?
It went really great at 10 p.m. But now getting my notes to show there.
No.
Boom. Okay. So thank you for being here. Thank you for having me here. Usually at these events, I introduce myself as being part of the Business Education Connection. I talk a little bit about that. And then I also mentioned that I'm part of Leadership La Plata, and got to put my little plug in here that we are open for enrollment starting, I think, May-ish. Is when we'll be accepting applications for that. So if you ever want to know more about Leadership La Plata, ask me about that as well. So what is the business education and what have I been up to? A lot of you might know me more as representing Animas High School. That's where I've been for the last 7 years, and I really worked hard to build up their internship program. And some people in this town have told me that when they hear the word internship, then the next word that comes to their mind is my name. So really proud of the work I did over there. But one of the things that happened while I was there is that I noticed that there's other schools doing internships as well. So Durango Big Picture has had an internship program as long as Animas has. They both started their schools with this idea of having an internship program. So I started doing more collaboration with Big Picture and talking to them about where they have their students going in their internship program, just to make sure that we weren't overworking our business community. And when I heard that Durango High School wanted to start an internship program, I knew that we needed to have a centralized location for internships. And so that's part of how the business education was born. The other part was that Durango High School, while I was doing this work, getting so excited about how we all need to collaborate, Durango High School was also getting really excited about growing their programs. And they knew they needed a work-based learning coordinator. So the stars all aligned in the middle of COVID, and I ended up with a new job last summer. So I've been developing this program since then, and I now run the internship programs for Animas High School, Durango Big Picture, and Durango High School. So I am the first person to be working for both the district, which is Big Picture, and Durango High School are both part of the district. And then Animas High School is a charter. So I'm the first shared role between the charter and the district, which is really quite an honor. And then I also am housed, my physical office that I'm in right now is at the chamber offices. Usually this is when Jack and I knock on the wall, but he's at home right now. So I wanted to be close to the businesses by being housed here instead of at one of the schools and then running around the schools. So that's kind of the history of how I got here. Another really exciting factor is that I went to Durango High School 20 years ago was my graduation. So, 21, it'll be 21 this year. So it's really exciting to be back in my old high school, and kind of weird because I get lost in the halls too. So what is work-based learning? My job title is work-based learning coordinator. What does this mean? And to sum it up, the way I see it is that the purpose of education is to prepare students to be productive citizens of our world, to be able to get jobs where they can not only make enough money to survive, but also be happy. So many people think of school as, well, I teach second grade, or my students in second grade, the goal here is to get them ready for third grade. And actually the goal for second grade is to get students ready for their careers. The goal of 8th grade is not to get them ready for high school, but to get them ready for careers. The goal of high school is not to prepare students for college, but to get them ready for careers. And so work-based learning prepares students every step of the way to be connecting what they're doing in the classroom to actual opportunities that they might have in what we call the real world. I hate that real world thing, because high school is real world. If you guys remember being in high school, it's real world. But the goal is to prepare students to be productive 25 and 30-year-olds who can take care of themselves, feel confident in the work that they're doing, and have a really solid direction where they understand why they're heading in the direction they're going. They align their goals with their own person. So how many of you were asked when you were growing up, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I love this image here, because is that the right thing to ask? And people are still asking that question. And what happens when we ask students this question is you get the classic answers. I want to be an astronaut, like this image. I want to be a doctor. I want to be a nurse. I want to be a teacher. You get these very classic responses because students don't know what else is out there. So that's a big part of my work, and the work of all of the schools, is to help students know what else is out there so that they're not getting such a narrow focus. What happens is if you don't know of other options, you tend to pick a career that you've heard of. So what your parents have done, what your family members have done, those are the only things you know of. And so those are the only directions that you can go. Even when we talk about students, when we talk about adults, when it comes to career preparation, if we don't know what's out there, we don't know what we should dream about. So this is the career cycle. There's multiple versions of this. This is not the one and only, but this is what we would do with an adult if you came to a career center or a career coach and you were looking for support figuring out what to do next in your life. This is the same thing that we would do with an adult, and this is what we do with students as well. The top bubble, the pink one, that's usually more for the adults, but high school students become aware of the need to make career decisions because they're like, oh man, I'm graduating soon. What am I going to do after that? That's a really big decision for a senior in high school to figure out, are they going straight into the workforce? Are they getting a certificate? Are they doing a 2-year degree? Are they going to a 4-year college? And having all of these tools and resources before they make that decision is really important. Because how many of you today are using your bachelor's degree or whatever it is that you did right after high school? I have a degree in Spanish. I did use it for a while. I was a Spanish teacher. That was my previous career, but I'm no longer using that at all. And that is such a common story. So the next step, and the one that we really start with the students, is to learn about ourselves. And again, if you're an adult and you're wondering what to do with your career and you went to a career coach, the first thing they would have you do is take some career surveys, do some storytelling. We can learn a lot about ourselves through storytelling, and we get really clear on who we are. The next thing we do is we start to look at what types of jobs are out there, and we're connecting who we are to those jobs. And then we research the jobs more, and I'm going to go into this in a little bit more detail later. And then we make a choice. And it says on the bottom left, we make a tentative choice. So we choose something, we try it on for size. And this is where the internships come into play. And then we, these two bubbles on the left, they can switch order, especially with students. The students, they get an internship and then they assess their educational path. As adults, we might upskill, we might go do another certification or take a class, and then we're ready to get the new job. And then the best part about this bubble, my favorite part, I'm a geek about this stuff, is that after you have a job, you come back to the top and you realize that you need to shift some things in your job. You need to come back and learn about yourself based on the new experience that you're having in that job. Okay, so finding joy in our work. It's really important that we are considering all the different pieces of who we are, our interests, our values, our skills, and our personality. So this is where I start with the students at all of the schools. This is an image that I like. This is called the Holland Code, if anyone really wants to geek out on this. So there's a survey that you can take where 3 of these words will pop up for you. And this is how our interests and our skills align to the type of work that we're doing. So for example, if you get realistic, that means you probably like really hands-on work. You like to be physical. Sitting at a desk all day is going to be hard for you. If for those of you who know me, I always get artistic and social, and that makes my life easier because those two are right next to each other. And a lot of jobs fit into this hexagon in a way that are with the words that are right next to each other. So I can find a lot of work with artistic and social, but I also have this realistic piece. And so I have to really make sure that in my free time, I'm active. I have to stand at my standing desk. I can't sit at my computer all day long. So this is a really great tool to help students figure out what is it that I like to do and how do I like my day to look as they start to consider different careers. And then this, oh man, I just love this one too. Ikigai is a Japanese concept, although I had a student who's smarter than me tell me that it's actually a Taoist principle before it was claimed by the Japanese. But what our goal is with this career exploration is to help students find their Ikigai, their reason for being. When you love what you do and you're good at what you do, you've got those skills like we were talking about in the previous slide. So once you figure out what you love to do and what you're good at, then you have your passion. But now we need to start shifting into, but what does the world need and what can I actually get paid for? And that's how we shift this into actually exploring careers. So the first thing we can do when we're exploring our careers is we can get online and there's so much job exploration. I'm going to just show you real quick what these two sites are. So ONET Online, again, this is something that is used with adults if you were to go to a workforce center or something. You go to, let's just start with this. There's all these different ways that you can explore your interests here. If we go again to me and we choose realistic, of course, we're going to talk about me, you guys, and artistic. So let's just say we pick those two of my interests. I'm going to skip the third one now for the sake of time. And all of these different jobs pop up. And this is such a cool thing for students, because when we were talking before about how students only think of the jobs they've heard of, now they can start to see all different kinds of jobs and get more information about it. So I was looking at the glass blowers the other day. I don't know if anyone has seen, there's a glass blowing TV show right now where they like compete and stuff. It's awesome. So I'm really curious about glass blowing right now. But you can look into here and see what does it mean to be a glass blower? What are the tasks? What are the skills that I would need? I didn't think that I needed technology skills to be a glass blower. Can't I just blow glass? Isn't that enough? Oh, you're going to have a business, so you're going to need some of these business skills. You're going to have some customer service because you're probably making your glass for a person. These are things that students might not be thinking about as they consider different careers. So it goes through their skills, the types of abilities you might need to have. Yeah, you might need to have some reaction time because you're going to break some glass. And then what are the work activities? Again, communication shows up. That one always shows up. More detailed work activities. This is so fascinating for students to get in here. I like this one, the work context. So 99% of glass blowers out there say that they're exposed to burns, cuts, bites, or stings. So it's not the safest role to choose. And then students can come down here and see how much education you'll need for this. And at the end, they can come down and see how much money they're going to make. So is this a living wage that I want to make for a long time? Maybe not. Maybe glass blowing is going to be my hobby on the side, and it's not going to be something that I do as my only job, unless I'm going to get really, really, really good at it. They can also see here that the growth is on the decline. So this is going to be a tough place to make a living. And so the students get really into this. Oh, I've skipped one spot. That's pretty cool. You can see related occupations. So maybe I don't want to be a glassblower full time, but maybe one of these other roles has my same skill set in it and my interests, but it might be more of a living wage. And so I might want to make cabinets instead of blow glass. Another strategy that we use to explore careers is virtual job shadow. And this is a website, and because we live in the state of Colorado, we have free access to it. So it has like login information. If you want me to tell you the way to get in for free, I can do that at a later date. But you can watch all of these different videos about different careers and get to see, 40 seconds of what's it like to be a streetcar operator. Maybe I want to move to another big city where they have streetcar operators, because the guy who talks about it makes it sound like it's really cool. So, and then, of course, they can come back and research what that means to get into those things. So back to the presentation here, these are all things that we can do online, but just as we know, we've all been online so much, and there's a piece that's missing there. We're missing that human connection. And so that's where we actually step into the work-based learning. And that's where we do in-person things. So informational interviews, this is where a student, and this could happen at any moment to any of you, a student might interview you, or sorry, they might email you and say, hey, I'm really curious about the work that you do. Could I schedule a time to do an informational interview? Hopefully you'll say yes, because it doesn't take very much time. And then you'll schedule a time with them, and then that student will call you up. They'll have their list of questions, and they'll ask you, Jack, how did you get into this work? Why do you love your job at the chamber? What do you hate about your job? What's the career path that got you here? What's the education that got you here? And in 15 minutes of your time through a conversation like that, students can get so much information that helps them figure out where their interests lie as well. There's also site visits. These have not been happening lately, but in the past they have, where this is where a group of students, usually the site visits are the younger students, freshmen or sophomores in high school, and we take a group of students to a site. So we've done tours at Stone Age. I'm not sure if our Stone Age person is still here, but we've taken the students there, and they get to go walk around and see what does it actually physically look like to do this work. Job shadows are a little more personal. That's where one student will come to your job site for a couple of hours and actually get to shadow you. They're watching what you're doing. Industry-sponsored projects is something that hasn't been happening at a huge scale in Durango, but I'm hoping that we'll do more of this. And this is where you think, as a business, you think of your back burner project, that thing that you just haven't been able to spend the time figuring out how to solve that problem. And we connect you with a teacher and their students, and you take that problem directly to them. I did this last year, right before COVID hit, with Manna Soup Kitchen. I had a group of sophomores over there. They have a backpack program where they're sending food home for students on Fridays. And for students who don't have a lot of food, they do the free and reduced lunch during the week, but then they go home and they might not have solid meals. And so the backpack program sends food home with students on Fridays, and Manna Soup Kitchen had twice as much food as they were actually giving away. So their question was, why are more students not taking advantage of that? And I took a group of about 8 students over there. And to be honest, I was really busy that week. It was the week before internship started. So I didn't guide the students' research all that much. I put them in charge of it. They called all these different schools, set up a schedule. I drove them around in the bus. They went and interviewed all of the schools, came back, learned how it was all working at each school, and then came up with some suggestions for Manna Soup Kitchen on how they could improve their program. So that was a really beneficial an opportunity for the students to see that they could give back, but then Manna Soup Kitchen also got all of these great ideas that they could implement. I think if COVID hadn't hit, I think we would have seen that program really changing because of the research the students did. Another way to get involved is to do classroom or panel presentations. So you could just be connected with a classroom teacher and talk to them about the projects that they have going on and come present. We're even doing presentations virtually these days. So that's not a huge ask of time. I'm also doing panel presentations at times where I'll get a few people from the same sort of career field and coming in to talk to a group of students about the type of work they do. And then of course, there's internships, the biggest piece of my work. So at the 3 different schools, each internship is different. I get asked all the time, well, when do they start? What's it like? And every single one is different. So in alphabetical order here, Animas High School has the Junior Link internship. All of their juniors get 3 weeks off of school in the spring. It starts April 26th this year. They have 0 classes. They have no homework for 3 full weeks. So they really get that full-time experience of what is it like to get up 5 days a week and go do the same sort of projects. They also at Animas have an optional senior internship. Students choose this because they want more experiences. And those schedules, they completely vary. It depends on what works for you. It depends on what works for them. And they're aiming for 60 hours per semester. And Both of those programs are actually, all of these programs are for credit on students' transcripts. So they're getting a grade that goes on their transcripts. Colleges see this. It really helps them not only with the exploration piece that I was talking about earlier, but also with getting into their next steps with their resume, their transcript, all of that. So big picture, they have an internship program. Their whole school is modeled around internships. So from 9th grade through 12th grade, their entire school takes the day off on Tuesdays and Thursdays purely to do internships. So they launch into them right at the beginning of the school year. And they're aiming for about 150 hours throughout the school year. Durango High School just launched their first internship program. You'll hear from Nick later. He's actually in the internship class. We're just doing a pilot this year, but the goal at Durango High School is to get about 20% of their students into internships soon. So their schedules will vary. We'll see what it looks like once COVID ends as well. Right now, students are choosing to be in the internship class. Their schedules will totally vary, and they're looking for 60 hours. This group of Durango High School students is launching their internships February 22nd. So we're doing this right now. Why would you want to do this though as a business? And I hate slides with a lot of words, but this was really just a great quote from the work-based learning myth versus fact sheet for Colorado specifically. And what's happening out there in the talent pipeline is that employers sometimes can't find employees that have the right skills. And so the hiring process is getting to be more challenging. And so thinking strategically, broadening our talent pipelines, it starts with engaging our youth and starting with the schools and collaborating more with the schools. So by being part of this, you actually have a say in how students are educated and how people are popping out of education prepared to work for you maybe. It also can create leadership opportunities within your organization. If you have a newer employee and they take in an intern, their confidence and their motivation might skyrocket because now they have this younger student that's inspiring them. What else? Oh yeah, I love this idea that your intern could be your future boss. You've got to watch out for these students. Watch out for Nick too. The student projects, each internship includes a project. So just like the Manitou project that I was talking about earlier, the students will come into your site and do some sort of project. And so those projects might actually help your business. The ideal projects are not centered around filing papers and helping you run your errands and get coffee, although that can be a part of it because that is a part of a business. The ideal projects are more focused on what is the type of work that a professional in this field does. And so they can actually help you make some things happen. And of course, it builds community and you get free marketing. The benefits to students though, they're, especially right now, students, I feel like with COVID, have less hope about their future and what they can do once they graduate. So giving them this opportunity to be able to contribute and apply their skills and interests, it's invaluable. And then they come back to the class understanding why they're in class and what they're learning and the skills that they're gaining from that. And then, like I said earlier, they can make these decisions about what I want to do when I graduate. What kind of college do I want to go to? Do I want to go to college? Is it a 2-year program? Is it a 4-year program? Do I need to take a year off? They can make those decisions based on experiences that they've had in the world rather than, just being in school for 4 years and never getting to step foot outside. Oh, a couple of internship stories. A shout out to Crit. There's her, Crit's here with us, Critter. Crit had Greta at right when WeFill was opening, and Greta was really a huge part of starting that business. Crit, you're welcome to jump in here if you want to add anything. A couple of other stories I want to share. There's an image there of a student helping at a physical therapist office. Actually, that's a gym. They're working out, sorry. But I'm thinking of a student who did a physical therapy internship, and she was a dancer her whole life. She was set on this idea of, I'm going to be a physical therapist. And then she did a really great internship with a physical therapy office here in town. She liked the people that she worked with. She liked the experience overall. But when it came down to it, she did not like what it meant to be a physical therapist. But she was looking around the office and seeing what other people were doing. And she said, you know what, the person who's doing graphic design, that looks really cool. And so she did a second internship her senior year with a graphic designer, and that was a fit for her. And so now she's in college studying graphic design, where if she hadn't had these internship experiences, she very likely would be in college studying physical therapy, only to find out later, after spending money on classes that she didn't need to take, that that wasn't actually what she wanted to do. Another story that I love sharing, this one is from years ago, my first year working at Animus, actually. I had a student there who's, I don't know if you've ever known one of these kids who's just smarter than all the teachers. And he was into IT, he was into technology. He was actually breaking into like Microsoft Office and finding their bugs and then warning them that he found bugs when he was in high school. So he did an internship with Get Prime when Get Prime was still here. And he did that his junior year. He never left. So his senior year, he still worked with them. And then this particular student chose not to go to college because he was already learning so much that he didn't really need to go to college. And he's still working in that same sector, and he gets to live wherever he wants. And now he's making the presentations at these big tech get-togethers. And he had that guidance while he was in high school in order to know that that was the right decision for him. So I could go on and on about stories, but I want to introduce you to Nick. Nick, I just added this page last night, so you haven't seen it yet. This is Nick Huber. He's a Durango High School junior. He's the student representative on the Homegrown Talent Initiative team, which he's been working with that team for over a year now. Nick, you're gonna have to correct me. Also vice president of Colorado Skills USA. He's a talented woodworker, among other things, and he's a future intern somewhere. I'm gonna let him take it from here.
Thank you, Janae. So as she said, I'm a junior at Durango High School, and I have been part of the Homegrown Talent Initiative for about a year and a half now. And I've been involved throughout the community in building up work-based learning throughout our schools. One of the most recent kind of programs that we've been developing is called the Homegrown Talent Initiative. And that program is a statewide organization here in Colorado that supports work-based learning and community connections in rural school districts throughout the state. They've been very helpful for Durango in just kind of building up some programs to support work-based learning, because we know the value of work-based learning. Janae talked a lot about that and how it really benefits a community. And this organization is really focused on supporting these schools and building up their programs and connecting education with the community. Some of the things that we've done as a school district going through this program is a needs assessment, and we kind of looked at where we are lacking in work-based learning and where we could build some community connections. And then we did some ideation just around what kinds of programs could we develop and how can we build these connections. And then we kind of looked at what resources might we need to start developing these programs, and what kind of resources we can develop to help these programs grow and to build these connections throughout the community. And I'll talk about one of the resources that we've developed a little later. But then once we've had these resources and we know what kind of programs we need and we know what kind of solutions we need, we really started to implement these programs, as evident in our new internship class. That class was one of the products of some work we did with the Homegrown Talent Initiative. And we really just started to implement all these different ideas and programs and resources that we've developed throughout our participation in this grant. And they do provide resources and funding for the programs we develop here at this school. And they've been so helpful in just helping us to come up with all of these great opportunities for students and business leaders throughout the community. Next, I'll talk about our new resource, which is called the Portrait of a Graduate. And this Portrait of a Graduate is a document that's meant to outline 7 different characteristics and 3 different behaviors that businesses and post-secondary institutions look for in our high school graduates at Durango High School. So this document is really meant to guide our work. It was developed by several different stakeholders throughout the community, including our students, our staff, many business leaders, our higher education partners, and just various stakeholders throughout the community. And we really value that process because through engaging all of our different stakeholders, we're able to really grow that talent pipeline and help support our community education and also economy through engaging all of these different stakeholders. And that's something that I've really liked about the Homegrown Talent Initiative, is that it really builds connections between these often siloed organizations in our community. And those connections is really what strengthens our community as a whole. But this portrait of a graduate, as I said, was really developed by our Homegrown Talent Initiative team at Durango High School, and it's meant to guide our work. It provides insights into our transferable skills, and it really outlines what transferable skills we're looking to teach students throughout their high school career. And even, starting in elementary school, we can start building up awareness for careers and these transferable skills. The purpose of building up these transferable skills is really to ensure post-secondary success. So when we look at our programs at Durango High School, we want to make sure that our students are prepared for any situation they come across after high school. So whether that's going straight into the workforce or going to college or going to the military, these transferable skills make sure that every student is prepared to successfully go throughout that program and to be successful in whatever they do. And that's why we really value this document, is that businesses know what's needed, and education and our schools can then use this resource to really build up our programs and really build opportunities for students to learn these critically important skills that we know really help our students to be involved with our community and to really be successful. So that's one of the things that we've started to implement actually. In our internship program, we're looking at, really supporting the portrait of a graduate through that curriculum and using that to build connections throughout the community. So as Janae said, the internship class is kind of a pilot just to see how some of these programs work and to see how the portrait of a graduate can be used in situations like this. And, we found it really valuable just seeing how students respond to the portrait of a graduate and how they can use that resource to apply it to their learning, to make sure they understand these essential transferable skills, but also to connect with business leaders and community members and say, yeah, these are the skills that we're looking for from these students. And these are the things that will help them to be successful in my business or in my organization. So that's been really helpful. I'd also like to kind of celebrate another achievement we've had in the past few months, which is the approval of the Foray bond initiative. That passed in November 2020 with 72% community approval. So we realize that our community is so supportive of the programs that we've been working on, and we're very thankful for everyone's support of our programs and our progress that we've made throughout this last few months. One of the things that we'd like to do with this new funds that are coming from the Foray bond is develop a Durango Community Innovation Center. So that's one of the things that we've really been talking about at the Homegrown Talent Initiative, is how to bring all of these different programs and ideas together. And we realized that in some other areas throughout the state, an innovation center or a central facility to facilitate work-based learning has been instrumentally helpful. And we realized that some of our career and technical education programs at the high school, the facilities might be lacking a little bit, and there's certainly ways that we can build up these programs. So we're really looking at building a innovation center at the Durango High School site. And that's the building that will be, as I said, funded by the Foray bond. And it will be a place where career and technical education programs can flourish, but we can also build up work-based learning and community connections. It'll be a great opportunity to get businesses engaged and students engaged and really facilitate those connections and opportunities, which is super exciting for me. I'm very excited about the possibilities of these programs and of these resources that we have. So that's something that, is very valuable to me. And we know that work-based learning is so important in our community, and it really helps to build up on these connections. So again, I can't thank you enough for all of your support. And just being involved in work-based learning is one of the best ways to support our students. we can actually talk now a little bit how you could get involved in work-based learning. And obviously there's so many different aspects of work-based learning. Janae, if you want to talk about the next slide a little bit, internships is obviously, a very active way to get involved, but there's so many different opportunities that we can connect students with businesses, which benefit both parties in, every way imaginable, really. And some of them are a little less active than internships, which takes up a good amount of time. But even just coming in and talking to students or doing quick interviews or, giving a short presentation at a class, those are all work-based learning opportunities that help students to discover their career interests and to really understand what they might be interested in, and just that exploration piece of everything, but also supporting our portrait of a graduate and the transferable skills we've outlined in there. So thank you again. And Janae, I believe, attached a form in the chat. Do you want to talk about that, Janae?
Yeah, I did. I attached a form in the chat if you just like me to reach out to you to talk about how you can get engaged with any of these activities. We are doing mock interviews next week, Tuesday, a week from today. You might be the one who gets assigned to interview Nick. So you can tell that's going to be just a lovely experience. Yeah, we just had a resume workshop yesterday led by a community member. And we're looking for people who could look at students' resumes once they come up with their drafts. It doesn't all have to be internships, although I really can use your connections for internships as well. So if you know anyone who has a cool job, or maybe their job's not that cool, but they still love their job, send those people my way as well. And so sign up on that form if you'd like me to reach out to you. And thank you, Nick, for being here. Nick is really, he's got all the history on the Durango High School work with the Homegrown Talent Initiative, which is part of the reason that I was able to be hired for this role too. So it's really great to have Nick co-presenting. So that is the end of our presentation. If you have any questions for either of us, I think Jack will give us a few more minutes.
You bet. And one thing I want to reiterate too, I did an internship actually when I was a student at Fort Lewis, and it was incredible. I interned at KOA Radio in Denver and was absolutely one of the best things I ever did to help establish what I wanted to do. So there are a couple, I think a question popped up in the chat here. Can we access the website you presented about the various types of jobs?
I think you're looking at ONET Online. It's right there.
What was that one more time?
ONET Online. I just put it in the chat.
Yeah, believe so. And if anybody wants to unmute themselves, they can as well. So if somebody would like to explore the possibility, one thing I always tell people too, the internship program is, I'm going to say, a longer commitment to helping, mentor or work with a student. Also the shadowing program, I love that idea too, because that's kind of the test drive, so to speak. Someone can shadow you and see if it's a career they're interested in, which is a great opportunity not only for the business but for the student as well.
Yeah, and I always suggest that one of the things that I do differently here in Durango compared to some other programs is that I don't place students directly into an internship. I don't say, hey, Nick, here's your internship, done, like matchmaker. Instead, what I do is I gave Nick a number of different resources of people he could reach out to, and then it's on him to find the internship, which means as a business, it's also on you to interview the student, to get to know what they're wanting to do, and just like you would with a new employee. So you get to choose to have an intern or not.
And it looks like Jack Turner is volunteering Nick to be your campaign chairperson for running for city council, apparently. Yeah, you have to get your petition in by February 9th, just so you know. Any other questions for Nick or Janae? You can even unmute yourself if you would like. And I also want to, Stone Age jump back on the call, 505 number, and Casey So Casey Lynch from Frederick Zink and Associates presented the PPP 2.0 funding. Stone Age HR joined, and also the 505. So thank you guys for joining. In the interest of time, we'll probably start wrapping up. Are there any other questions? I will plug, Janae, you have done an incredible job coordinating all this. I know I see hands-on, with you being in the chamber office, which I think has been a great fit. And hopefully as we move through all the COVID stuff, we'll get the building opened up again, and you'll be able to then work with individuals, and people can come in and, talk with you one-on-one. So I'm looking forward to when that can actually occur. But I'm not seeing anybody unmuting or any other questions.
Here I
Hey, do you
am.
want to? Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to say thanks, Janae, for all you do, because I know me as a business owner and just starting out, it was beyond helpful to have Greta. And I think any business would really benefit if you think about what you can have that intern do, rather than just having Greta come work in my shop, which could be taught to anyone. We figured out how she could give presentations to different age students about just plastic pollution, not really selling my shop, but just what they can do as individuals. And Greta started off very shy when she was doing her presentations. And by the end of it, I heard that she was the speaker at the high school every week for something. And so I think just thinking about ways, not only that they could help your business, because yeah, that was educational outreach, but more importantly, to help the student to become, who they really want to be out there, because her presentations can lead her in so many directions. So I just want everybody to think about ways that they can help the students, and ultimately it will benefit them. Thanks, Janae.
Yeah, thanks, Critter. And I can't believe I forgot to tell you that my own logo and website was designed by a student intern last summer. So I got this job in July, and in July I was like, I need an intern, and I know where to find one.
Yeah, I'd like to say something too. In my other hat, I owned a rafting company for about 30 years and employed a lot of young kids. And obviously Nick doesn't need some of that, but I think it's so important that some kids nowadays, a lot of times they really haven't had a job, where they really are responsible for showing up on time, for making sure they're there and ready to work at the time frame that's given. And we'd interview some great kids in the rafting that were just extraordinary, but they'd show up 15 minutes late, and that just doesn't work. I mean, if it's an accident one time, but some of those basic job skills, I know we used to love to hire people who'd been in the food service industry, because they could read body language of people, what table needs water, what table needs something else, how they're doing that. So even an internship in other areas can really help with those job skills beyond the smarts, when you just get there and make an eye contact and talking to somebody face to face that's not your peer age group, because some of your customers may not be.
Casey, you want to go on a speaking tour with me?
After tax season.
Yeah, Janae, whenever we had the magazine running, it's been about 7 or 8 years. Animus must have just started their program. I don't remember, but I had an intern come in and she wrote an article on an artist, did all the writing, worked with the editor, to make sure that her style and her format and her language was proper. Then she had to work with a photographer to show how to visualize her article. And it was really a great experience. And I think I still have her article in the archives of the magazine, if you're ever interested in that.
Yeah, send it back over to me.
Yeah.
And one of the things I point out too is that interns can get whatever assignment you give them, they can get it done in a fraction of the amount of time, because they can focus and they're usually not interrupted, where we are as business owners all day long. We have interruptions, we have to take care of things. So always plan for that, have a few projects in mind. So Well, with that, Janae, thank you. Nick, great job. We'll look for your campaign on city council. And but sincerely, thank you for everything you do with the intern program. Yes, big round of applause, as they say. And put that up in the
Back at you.
reactions, and keep up the great work. And if anybody has any questions, you obviously can follow up with Janae. And with that, looking at the clock, we have 1 minute left, so we'll wrap up with coffee at home, and everybody go forth and conquer. And Casey, I hope you survive tax season.
Thank you, Jack.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Janae. Great presentation. Good job.